going to play a little bit of Joe Bataan for y'all. One thing about Joe Bataan is I had been listening to Joe Bataan for a very long time. When I was in junior high, I got beat up every day, and a group of Mexican gangsters got sick of watching me get beat up every day and decided to protect me for the rest of my 7th grade year. They were my friends for a couple of years, then we grew apart, and but they love listening to oldies. And if you listen to any kind of lowrider compilation, you will see some Joe Bataan. And let me play a little bit here. This is a song called Under the Street Lamp. When I was older, I found out that Joe Bataan's mother was black and his father was Filipino. And I had never realized that before. That he was a Filipino guy like me, who grew up in Spanish Harlem and kind of took on the environment that he grew up in. I actually watched Joe Bataan speak at the I Hotel a couple months ago. And he came through just to talk, and he's like, when I grew up, I knew I was Filipino, but I didn't really know I was Filipino. And for me, that's what growing up was like. Like I knew I was Filipino. You know? I knew it because my mom and dad cooked Filipino food. You know? I knew it because they would call me a knock and not son. And I knew that I was different. And it wasn't until I was older I started understanding what that really meant. And then he was talking about how he understood how that really meant. But then when I listened to his songs, like this song right here, Under the Street Lamp, I think about his American experience and how much it's so much like my American experience. Just hanging out with the fellas with nothing to do. And that's how I grew up. And my first piece that I wrote today, I used a bop form, and I'm gonna come up to the mic to do it. But it's a bop form which was created by a poet by the name of Alpha Michael Weaver at the Kave Khanum workshop. And it's basically a 3-section piece. The first section establishes the problem. The second section explains the problem further, and the third is where it gets resolved or not resolved. But in between each section, you use a line. You can use a part of a song as a chorus. And I can't sing like Joe Bataan, so I'm gonna do what I do when I usually karaoke. I'm gonna do this talk singing thing that hopefully where you just kind of push it enough to where my voice doesn't break, but sometimes it does. You know, we'll hopefully not won't happen. So this is my bop. And let me I want to time this to make sure I'm not going over time here. How's everyone doing? You having a good time? There is no name for being young and without direction in a rudderless city. To count time under every different street light where you dreamt about girls and places that didn't look like here. This is what hanging with the fellas means when you are young. A place to buy time until you figure out how to use your dick. Or somewhere to crash into during all the waiting. Just dreaming of the days that lie ahead. And growing up was the one dream in our heads. It felt like every day was looking for somewhere to go. So much of the quiet we were trying to fill through car stereos and boom boxes. All the green paint rubbed off the play button. One of the girls we rolled with flashed me in the back seat one night. Caught only a glimpse of her nipple in a passing switch of moon. We just kept driving like we always do. And when she got tired, she leaned her head against me. You don't forget things like this. Just dreaming of the days that lie ahead. And growing up was the one dream in our heads. I used to become so restless dreaming about the other city. Something you didn't know you wanted and could feel you watching it back. Before I left town, my homegirl called me to pick her up. Figured there was trouble with her boyfriend. When she got in the car, her guy looked at me like he was ready to spit my name out of his mouth. I got an abortion, she told me. We can go anywhere right now, I said. Anywhere. Just dreaming of the days that lie ahead. And growing up was the one dream in our heads. One of the other pieces I worked on as far as when I was trying to, channel Joe Bataan, after listening to a lot of music for 2 weeks, I kept thinking about, what is it about the music? What is it that's pulling me as far as content, as far as feel? One thing about 70s soul singers that I always really liked, that, I really miss in R&B is, it's very masculine. It's very masculine with the right amount of sensitivity. It is not afraid of the sensitivity. It's not afraid of that, which I hate about today's R&B. They play like being sensitive. You know what I mean? But it's not, you can't, they just don't have that right balance. It's like, I have to be too tough to sing about loving you. It's like I remember there was that one Making the Band with P. Diddy when they had the guy group. And this is what typifies it. This is what I feel about it. They had a scene where they had two sets of guys battle each other in singing, and you had them just kind of puffed up, going like, yeah, and then they're just kind of singing back and forth, singing 1/12 to each other, and it was just like, this is wrong. This is so very wrong. But and that's one thing that I like Joe Bataan. Joe Bataan is kind of a badass. He was a leader of a gang called the Dragons in Spanish Harlem. When he got famous as a singer, some guy that was trying to book him in Vegas was like, yeah, man, I'm from Spanish Harlem. I'm from your town. You stole my jacket one day. But I kind of thought about I spent the last couple of years kind of really trying to figure out, okay, what is my relationship to misogyny? What's my relationship to patriarchy? And figure out ways to become a better ally. But then, calling yourself an ally is like trying to call yourself awesome. I can call myself awesome all day, but it doesn't really matter until someone else says I'm awesome. And unless someone else says, and I don't think I've quite earned that yet. And but the one thing I wanted to go back when listening to that music is, all right, what about my experience as a man, with these behaviors that kind of typify, kind of males being males, and trying to make sense of it. And I started writing about me and my brother. One thing we do is box. All the time when we're around each other, and it's kind of stupid. We've been doing that since we were kids, and it started when we were playing Street Fighter on the Super Nintendo, and it's been that way. We're in our 30s now, and we still fight. But it's having that time to do that with my brother is kind of one of the because I don't see him a lot anymore because he's also an artist, and he goes on tour, and it's kind of like we could just sit here and talk about our day or what we were going through, but instead I try to punch him. So this is I've been trying to and listen to music and listen and think about his cultural experience, think about my cultural experience, and then peace just kept growing and growing. And so this is kind of an early version of this longer piece. It's called Bare Knuckle Boxing in Our 30s. Brother, might is our immense mother. That's what Lee Young Lee wrote when he autographed my book 10 years ago. I can't decide whether this was brilliant or if he was trying to fuck with me. This is what I can do with what I'm given. Find the seam and unfurl carefully. But sometimes I want to be real mannish about my shit. The kind who wants to break and tear apart a gift he cannot understand. Sometimes I think the obscurity is just another way of saying there is something in the machine of me that is broken. Or maybe what he meant to say was something in the machine of you will be broken too. Every old person we grew up with is a monolith to me. Some unmovable thing. A living ghost of the old country we only knew in homemade dishes and our parents' private conversations. Not every reminder is gentle. Some come crashing into us like stone or a fist you never wanted to throw. I've been thinking about the word home. When we say home, we mean a city. When we say a country, we mean a place where we don't belong. Everyone I've ever punched in the face looks like me. I swung at a white kid once and I missed. That has to mean something, doesn't it? As if there's something to be made out of time. And as if time is a made thing. Like you can say the hands of a clock are knuckling in. Little brother, I broke my wrist against you because I couldn't keep losing anymore. Now the patch of flesh between my thumb and forefinger is looking like Louis Armstrong's cheek. I got a little something left in me though, Slick. I'll still be thrown with the ghost inside of our boxes. I take hits, my brother. I take all the hits. See me weight like stone. I grow rubies on my body. I remember one summer Ma forgot to pick you up from basketball practice. When we pulled up to the school, you came running up to the car like you were sure you were about to be lost forever. It hurts me still to know how long time feels when you are afraid and how slow it is when you are alone. But when that boy, I promised then, I'd make sure that you were never abandoned again. But when that boy gave you your first hit of crack, that was somewhere else. And you learned how to grow up without needing me. A year ago, we climbed the church tower in Zurich, Switzerland, and watched the city become a bed of frost. You had asked me how I was doing, which meant you were asking me about her. I told you I wasn't well, and the city looked beautiful from up here. I imagined she'd say how typical it would be of us Bayani men, to be so unwilling to communicate completely. She's not wrong. So I'll tell you what I should have said. I don't miss her. I miss being in love, but sometimes I mistake it for her. Grief is not an emotion, it is a system thereof. Not a thing you feel, but experience, like love. If we never wanted anything, there would be nothing to lose. You could write that into the blues. This must happen. That when you chance to become all the flesh and the blood of your body, you will want and you will lose. Every song you hear will be a love song, a reminder that the programming is consistent. It runs without failure. It was an overhand right. I set it up with a few jabs to the body. Had to switch up my stance because you favored kicks with your right leg and kept nailing me on the inside. I hit you in the shoulder and felt my wrist crumple on impact. I hit you hard enough to send you reeling to the floor. My wrist is still fucked up. But I'd do it again. It was all worth it. I don't remember what you were crying about when you were 10. Just remember seeing you crying wearing a t-shirt that read, "I'm the boss." These perfect pictures, that's what I have in my memory. These are the moments I saved so I could talk about it later. So many of you crying. Being brothers with you means I have to carry all of this with me too. It's easier with the folks you ride for. You can say we're family, or these guys are like brothers to me. And they are like brothers to me. But you are my brother, John. A burden in every way a burden is meant. The heaviest weight to carry is the blood you were born into. Even our older brother is reduced to a child in front of our parents. They were yelling at each other over things not communicated. What's been held inside, all of the words in wrong places, 42 years old, and he was bawling at the table. Even yelled at me to go away when I went to go pour some coffee. Fucked up that it made me feel better about things. Like I had never felt closer to him than I did right now. We almost fought once. He told me he was going to kill me. When it's your blood telling you that, it feels like they mean it more. Like all the capacity for love you have for this motherfucker. All the space it takes up inside of you can make a home for hate here too. Family has a whole chunk of real estate inside of me. So much space for all the things I can feel about you. I backed down. I couldn't do it. How do you hit the person who fell on America for you? Who got hit first and couldn't stop it from happening anyway? That's who my brother is to me. The one who was hit first. That time I was arrested, I called him the next morning when they let me out of jail. I just wanted something to tell me I was going to be okay. I wasn't sure if I'm sorry was ever a thing he told me before all of this. But he said it then. I never thought everything wrong with me was his fault. But to know that he believed that was something he wasn't supposed to let fall apart was everything told me. All the mistake of me, all that is flawed in my engine has been so for a very long time. Maybe we love each other like this because we speak different languages. So much that is needed and wanted from each other. So much not said and hidden. It is truly a big country, and I will always be alone inside of it. Don't worry about me, though. There are always people at my door. I'll let them in sometimes. Sometimes they get paint on the wall. It's not a terrible living at all. I was only a baby when it happened. One of the neighbors in Daly City almost ran Jake over on the street. Dad went over with a few of his boys and stood in front of his house with baseball bats, waiting for him to come outside. I mean, everything about this is wrong, right? I should be able to temper how I feel about the story with some observation on the violence we perpetrate amongst each other. Now this could have turned out very bad for a man who was young and brown and an immigrant. But when I say my dad is hood as shit, I value this. I value violence sometimes. If I ever get old enough for a cane, I'm going to hit you with that cane. I'm not trying to get healthier. I'm just trying to fight you as a senior citizen. I suppose healthy families talk to each other about their feelings and practice having difficult yet honest conversations. Things that generally improve the atmosphere of the household. But then that all starts sounding like a whole lot of white people shit to me. After a while. I have no reason to believe this, but I'm still pretty sure I can kick your ass. You work out every day of the week and have practiced Muay Thai for 5 years. All I got are the poems I've written and the 8 hours of gym time I barely fit in. But when you come home, you want to drink wine with me. And it makes me want to punch you in the face. I tried looking up whether or not two brothers had ever fought against each other in boxing. As far as I can tell, it's officially happened twice in 1993. Marty versus Eric Jubowski and Kusuo versus Katsuaki Eguchi. Both fights ended in a knockout. The Klitschko brothers said they sparred once, and one of them left with a permanent scar on his face and the other a broken leg. The younger brother Vladimir once said, "We have incredible love for each other, but there is also incredible competition and hate." I love you very much, and sometimes it's easier to take another rejection, the failed attempt at marriage, the descending ceiling on my time as an artist, than to have to lose another fight to you. Don't you get it by now, little brother? Family is the only city in the world where I can break in safety.